World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You are risking not only your life, but also my life.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Halfway in the season, the championship couldn't be any closer if you tried. And what you would understand from 2 rounds of racing is that we've had 2 very, very different results placed on the table. The reigns of Oulton Park now long behind us. We take our move from the north down to the south. It is Kyalami. It is South Africa. It is racing here with World Pro Racing, of course, on YouTube, Facebook Live, on Twitch, with motorsport.tv, with ESTV, the Esports Television Network, and with TVM Sports. It's the 3rd round, of course, of this wonderful AMD GT4 series. I'm Jake Sperry. That is Kieran McGinley alongside me for the ride, and we take a little look into a track which, for all intents and purposes here on Assetto Corsa Competizione, is a welcome addition to this wonderful, wonderful platform. A track which has all of the makings of great action, and on top of that, developed as a Porsche track. So that means that it has all of the makeup, you would say, Kieran, an understanding of what it takes for GT racing.
Yes, absolutely, and that comes as no surprise. You know, the Porsche development is pretty strong here. The Porsches you would expect then are going to be pretty strong here, with that balanced car, with that good sense of, you know, what could be for the Porsche teams. We'll find out. Obviously, that's all on paper. What's decided then is what happens out on track. Of course, 15 minutes of practice, 15 minutes of qualifying, and then we've got an hour race with a mandatory pit stop that is a mandatory tyre change. So I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing how that top 3 in the championship develops as well, because 3 points covered a lot of them.
Exactly, so we'll be keeping an eye out on how everyone stacks up in the championship. Luke Whitehead comes into this round with the championship lead, 1 point clear of Jack Noller, and then it's a further point back to Taha Mali. Then you've got in 4th position Tinko van der Velde in 4th overall, 49 points, is 12 points back at this moment in time. And really, this is a championship where you can go and make things happen. We take a little look out there to circuit, and you can see it's a very muggy day here today. Overcast conditions, that's going to be good for some drivers, not necessarily, Kieran, for others. These cooler conditions are more likely to see mistakes.
Yeah, because of course you've got the cooler track temperature. That means it takes a little bit longer to actually get the tyres up to temperature, and colder tyres means less grip, and that will mean fewer more mistakes. So we'll have to wait and see how the action progresses. 32 degrees centigrade though out on track, not too bad, not too cold for the drivers out there, but if the cloud stays around, there is a risk the track temperature could drop away, could fall away, and the drivers will have to make sure that they keep on top of that. going through these races. But it's Taha Mali leading this free practice session so far by just over 0.2 of a second ahead of Tinko van der Velde. And then it's Luke Whitehead just under half a second behind, and Taha Mali getting 2 wheels very much in the air.
Yep, 2 wheels in the air, like you just don't care, as going out then of the final corner, then and making that charge over towards the line. It's a long drag towards turn 2 at Crowthorne. You've got this small kink right, which descends down the hill as you go, and everyone's going to be trying to be alert to how their cars are going to respond here today. There is Mikhail Merchieka out there on track, 11th position overall at this moment in time, piloting the BMW at this stage. But there are a lot of different ebbs and flows when it comes to what car is right. Luke Whitehead, for example, Ashtois Racing, riding around in that Audi and has made that Audi look really strong and really good this season. The one caveat is he's the only driver in that. When you look at someone like Taha Mali, he's gone for the Ginetta. There's only one other driver in this field today who's holding a Ginetta in the back of the pocket.
And sometimes that can be an advantage, sometimes it can be a disadvantage. Sometimes you will find a car that just works right, that nobody else can get and unlock the performance that you are finding in it. On the other hand, you may find out the reason why nobody's chosen that car in particular. There's a lot of Porsches out there as well. You can see pretty much the table is full of them on the left-hand side as Luke Whitehead comes across the line then to set a 150.4. So no doubt in a bit of race pace scenario, a bit of race pace practice as well, as he heads his way now on towards the first, or should I say second corner, the first braking zone.
Yep, the first braking zone of the Crowthorne corner. You make that climb up the Juxgay sweep towards Barbecue Corner, and this is where the new track meets the old, the Formula 1 style circuit here. This back stretch here on the Barbecue over towards Sunset, turn number 5 out here on this track. You can see you're dealing with a little bit of the pit exit as you try and make that turn in, and there's a whole heap of maneuverability that will go through this middle sector. You've got to get right across early then for the clubhouse bend. This very difficult 100-degree left-hander, very reminiscent without the banking of turn number 11 over at Watkins Glen. Then you've got this S's section, left and right. It's going to be impossible to overtake through here, but what you understand is that is the momentum setup for Leibkov. This very difficult braking zone. You take the crest of the rise as you go through this left-hander, and it's a double apex through into 11 as well as you make that descent down the mine shaft, because it's got the very similar angle to going down the mine shaft, say, as you were. Now you go through this very tough left. The Crocodiles comes up next. Very unique corner, the Crocodiles. You take a very wide line in, take a very late apex into the corner and attack off of the exit through Cheetah Corner. Used to be a chicane here at this point in time, but it's now a very fast right. And finally, the Ingwet Corner, the final little braking zone out on track. Very similar to the final corner at Laguna Seca. And that, of course, is a lap around this place. Whitehead putting it nicely over the line at 149.599. Good enough at this moment in time for third place.
Yep, and just over 0.3 of a second off of Taha Mali. There is Ashton Coxted in one of the Ashtois racing cars. You can tell with the purple rims on the wheel then. You can tell him from a huge distance away. Maximilian Verdi then in the virtual drivers by TX3 Mercedes, then making his way in towards Leerkop then. Making sure you get back onto the power, quickly followed by the left-hander then heading our way now down through Mineshaft, and you can see here building up the speed then as we make our way and try and tackle on towards this flying left-hander through on towards then the braking zone of Crocodiles, then applying the anchors and having to try and have an element of trail braking. The track then dips away from you as you exit out of the Crocodiles and then in towards Cheetah, and very encouraging here to get 2 wheels off the ground. Well, that was at least 1 wheel for Vadi then. The front right getting a little bit airborne then into the final corner at Ingwa and back onto the power once again. A little bit of a rise there to climb up the slight crest, and towards the line he will go, and no improvement from him, but to be fair, he's only less than 1/10 of a second away from his own personal best.
yet not a million miles away in terms of times, and it's those times that we'll be continuing to keep our eyes very peeled on over the course of the practice that we have. It's worth keeping an eye out that the top 5 positions at this stage in practice are all 5 different manufacturers. You've got Mali out there at the moment in the Ginetta, position number 1. Van der Velde's in the Aston Martin, Whitehead in the Audi, you've got Vadi in the AMG Mercedes, and then you've got Jack Noller in the Porsche. The BMW is in 7th and the McLaren is in 8th. I think we've just found a track here, really, that has suited pretty much everyone except maybe the Alpine in 13th.
Well, that's a bit early doors here in this practice session at the very least. This is a session where you don't want to give away too much. You don't want to give away to your rivals how quick you actually are. There is Tico van der Velde in the Sidemax Motorworks Aston Martin, making his way now in towards that right-hander, in towards the Crocodiles, then very wide on the escape road there if you do make a mistake, but then you come to a very narrow part of the track. Unforgiving is the word I would use to describe Cheetah then, and in towards the last corner, and Ingwer then using plenty of curb on the right hand side to open up the corner, carry a little bit more speed through, then back onto the power as Van der Velde comes across the start finish line then, and he stays in second fastest, just under 0.4 of a second off of his own personal best. But you can assume here in these last few minutes of this practice session that drivers will be really focusing on their race sim.
Absolutely, and it's important to realise what is the difference between just having practice and going out and driving for a lark comparatively to qualifying. Qualifying is all about that pursuit of 1 lap pace and getting the very most out of the car, and that would be at the expense of, say, the tyres. It'll be at the expense of the fuel burn that you go around. It's not necessarily the same setup that you would use for the race, and that's why you're going to see some different times when it goes between practice and qualifying, because, Kieran, there are a lot of factors that drivers want to practice as they go through. Some look at track familiarity, others look to try and maximise a certain corner, which they view as a weakness. Every single driver has a different way they construct and try and get the best out of qualifying.
And that's the important thing as well, as drivers will tell you pretty much there is no such thing as a perfect lap, but you need to get as close to it as you possibly can. And using a practice session is all well and good. You can try and put in the lap times when the pressure's off, but with a time limit on you, with the track always improving, and we've got this optimum track here, but there's still more grip to find out there. You will find that in that moment of pressure, in that 1 lap scenario, do you have what it takes to find whatever the car can give you? It's a challenge in itself, and I think that's why we love to see the drivers really up against it, under the pressure. They've got only a couple of laps to do it in, and it really just sorts out who can put in that lap time when the pressure is on.
There are questions of who can and who can not when it comes to certain circuits out there overall. And of course, we've also got to talk about the rundown of the championship that we have going here. Just a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, you can go to worldproracing.com/events for more content that's brought to you if you want to get yourself in on some racing going on. For example, the Duo Series, which will be coming up, a 90-minute race, I believe at Zolder in 2 weeks' time, is something that's definitely in the mirrors and an opportunity for many a driver to get themselves into. Make sure that you check that one out on the horizon. But let's talk a rundown for the end of the championship, because we've got some really, really good tracks here and coming up to finish this all off.
We absolutely have, and I'm really looking forward to getting my teeth sunk into them. Of course, we do have Kyalami tonight, if you hadn't guessed that already, but then falling off the rest of the season, we have Misano going all over to Italy, and then we jump over to the season finale at the Nürburgring. So yeah, 3 great tracks coming up, all providing action no matter where you are on the circuit. And for the drivers, it is a huge challenge, each circuit offering something different, something else that the previous one didn't offer, and trying to make sure you adapt is going to be a critical factor in these closing stages of the championship.
Yep, and that adapting is really vital. As you can see, these 2 Mercedes right next to each other on circuit. Jordan Soanes for the team out there at the moment. He is doing a good job actually in 5th position. Now that makes it 3 Mercedes, 4th, 5th and 6th, with Sheldon Muscat in 6th position overall right now in practice. So we are seeing how these times are starting to put themselves into play. We've got ourselves about 3 minutes remaining here in the practice session before we start to move on over towards that qualifying effort. And we see how certain drivers like certain tracks and how certain drivers don't like certain tracks. And you're going to see that dichotomy between drivers who've got a good car and drivers who maybe not so much. Surprised to see at the moment in practice Jimmy Holm a little bit down the order right now. 1.8 seconds adrift. He's down in 15th position as Jordan Soames looks to finish off the lap in the number 23.
Yep, and here he comes then through the final corner at Ingwer, then back onto the power he goes then as he now accelerates his way towards the start-finish line. What's this lap time going to be like then as he crosses it? It's a 50.8, so no doubt then maybe a little bit of race sim, maybe a little bit of traffic management as well in there as well. Dean Vella in the GT Omega RPM Esports Porsche making his way, flying his way through Cheetah and then in towards Ingwer. Then as you see then the front lurches forward as the anchors are applied. Back onto the power we go then as we head towards the start finish line then for Dean Vella in the number 54. He crosses the line and it's a 50.9. That's his best lap so far, and that puts him now up into 15th place.
15th position, 1.7 seconds adrift then of the fastest time out there overall as Itamar Yativ also improves on lap. There is Samir Foch in the baby McLaren racing team McLaren, looking to try and get a little bit more out of it. Very aggressive over that penultimate corner, and you can really start to see when drivers try and take the most out of Cheetah Bend, because there is that big anti-cut curb, that huge deterrent to take as much as you can out of the corner as Soristo moves up into 12th. Foch moving up then into 9th position with that lap time, and in fact ties his time there with Mikhail Mershieka in 8th position. But this is what we see. Drivers want to be aggressive around this place. This track doesn't want you to be that aggressive. That's why you see big anti-cut curbs around this place.
You really, really do. And having a look at this practice session, it's interesting looking at the top of the table. Taha Mali has the fastest lap of this session, but Tinko van der Velde is faster than Mali through Sector 1 and Sector 3. Through Sector 2, though, he drops about 2 or 3 tenths of a second almost in the middle sector alone, and that is where he's losing that huge amount of time. No doubt he'll be having a look at that and seeing what last-minute setup adjustments can he make.
Yeah, and also you have to look at maybe some of the strengths and weaknesses of certain vehicles. Tinko van der Velde and the Aston Martin, it's a very good all-around vehicle. That middle sector is all about momentum and carrying that middle corner speed, which when you've got a Ginetta, which is pretty light and is very strong at doing that sort of thing, we can often see that Jetta's very good when it gets very twisty. There is Jimmy Holm, 16th position right now in the homing missile machine, taking that dive into the pits, and it's a very slow pit lane and very difficult to start. You have to take that crest up the hill as you turn around, especially with those speed limits. You are actually going under the speed limit to make the turn, which makes things difficult. Practice, though, is in the book here with World Pro Racing. Drivers then will be looking to get those final little bits of time in the back pocket before they move over towards that qualifying effort that we have seen time and time again. But really here, Kieran, it's all about focus now. They've put the boards in. They've seen who has the form book right now. It's with Tahamali and Ashtoir. And now you start to look at things and go, well, okay, that's how the form book looks. We've read the blurb on the back. Now it's time to get into the opening chapters.
Yeah, that's how it looks on paper at the very least. But now it's time to see how the drivers will react and how they will react to that form book being thrown at them. As we see Jordan Soames then making his way through the last couple of corners. He makes his way through Cheetah then, not taking too much of the curb on the inside then, and now making his way down the hill then in towards Ingwer for the final time. I believe one of the final cars to make his way out there. He'll be the penultimate car to take the checkered flag as he crosses the line then. And where will he go? He stays 5th fastest, and he's not far off of his personal best time, just about 0.036 seconds off of his personal best, so pretty consistent on that front. Consistency, though, is more for the race. When we get to qualifying, really, you've got 2-3 chances of putting in the best lap you possibly can.
You absolutely do, and it's those best laps that you need to be consistently finding again and again and again, and those who are the very, very top drivers have that ornate ability to just find a 10th here or find a 10th there. And that's going to be really important later on down the session when drivers are able to go out there and improve on those times over and over. There's no limit to how many times they can go back to the pits, reset, get fresh tires, go back out there again. They just have to find the best one lap that they can put together around this Kyalami circuit. A Kyalami circuit, you would say as well, Kieran, that for all intents and purposes should be out there a little bit more, but it's almost like it's a hidden gem style circuit. Some drivers won't have had that opportunity to race here before, and as you can see with drivers getting themselves out on circuit, having track position might actually be a very big benefit today.
It's a very narrow circuit, isn't it? On the grand scheme of things, there's a lot of high-speed corners in there as well, which makes the track look even narrower as well. So it's all about finding your space out there, as in any qualifying session. But here at Kyalami, it's even more important. It is critical. The overtaking opportunities when it comes to the race are limited. They're possible, but having a good qualifying position will help you to no end. And then the drivers will be thinking about their mandatory pit stop. Now, the tyre change is mandatory. The fuel is not. So do you go heavy? Do you try and make the fuel last the whole race, or will you take a bit of fuel in your pit stop and make sure that you run light for the 2 stints and just have a longer pit stop? This will all be going through the drivers' minds, but not right now, because they're on their out lap and they're making their way out for their first qualifying lap of the session.
I'm sure drivers, when it comes to the race, will be looking at how much fuel that they can cover in comparison to their stop for tyres. But there is Whitehead making his charge then through this penultimate corner, looking to gear up then for his first flying lap. And you can see how dark it is out there today here at this moment in time. It's going to be a very tough battle. You can see that you've got so much cloud cover that the headlamps are on, and now making that run towards turn number 1 and now to 2 at Crowthorne. It's all about positioning here. You look at this, it's very similar to Circuit of the Americas, only difference, no elevation change through the corner. Keep it nice and neat on the exit, take that rise up the hill through this opening sector, and you're always trying to maximize turn 4. 2 and 3 aren't necessarily the money corners, 4 is though at Barbecue here on this anti-clockwise circuit. That's another thing drivers will be looking at. Not often that you get to see an anti-clockwise circuit.
Not at all, and in motorsport it can have an adverse effect on your net because most circuits are clockwise. That's another factor of Kyalami that the drivers will absolutely love. In towards the clubhouse bend then, as you then get back onto the power up to 4th gear as you make your way now towards the S's, and very, very frightening corner this one, taking a lot of curb on the left hand side, just a kiss of the curb on the right, just to make sure the car is balanced on the exit of the corner. That's where you really, really need it. Up the hill we go then towards Layer Cup. You have to start really slowing the car down, and then you'll see the apex. So you're just aiming and hoping that you'll hit the apex when you hit the anchors. Back onto the power then as we make our way now through Mineshaft, and you can see the clouds looming in the distance. No threat of rain so far, but that is so far, of course. Flying through this left-hander and on our way then towards the Crocodiles, and back down the gears, just going as far left as possible around Crocodiles and back onto the power again.
Yep, so now the final stages of the lap is going to be important here for Whitehead. In the second sector, it was a 44.1 on his last go by, so we'll see how this one plays as he makes that charge over towards the line, takes a lot out of that final section. He's got to be careful about being too aggressive through there, and sets his time a 149.767, and is immediately beaten by half a second there by Tinko van der Velde, doing very well. Tahamali then goes over the line and does not set a representative lap time. So those first times on the board, it is van der Velde who's looking probably the strongest at this moment.
Yeah, that's an incredible lap time. 49.2 early on in this session. That has really set a marker down, and pretty much beating Luke Whitehead in every single sector by at least 1/10 of a second. So he's absolutely on the money today. That's why he's at the top by just under half a second. No doubt Luke Whitehead will be looking at that, and that will only encourage him to try and go even faster.
Yep, and those encouragements will continue. You've got Vady now up in 3rd, Muscat is 4th, Mercheka then into 5th place. There is Sheldon Muscat in the GT Omega RPM Esports Mercedes out there on circuit, trying to make all of that run very, very responsible right now. About half the drivers yet to set a time. Samir Foch has just jumped up. There is David Ohak at this stage, trying to get the DJ Racing Porsche to move on forward. Currently 2.2 seconds down. Seems the Porsches are struggling today, and that includes Jack Noller, who's second in the championship.
Yeah, and for a track that prides itself on being one of the Porsche-developed tracks, the Porsches are struggling today as they see themselves. You know, the highest Porsche is 7th place in Deep Vella, 1.5 seconds off of the provisional pole position time. But let's give it a couple of minutes at the very least. We're not getting towards the halfway stage in qualifying, and this is when drivers will sort of, some of them, I mean, I would set a banker lap at this point and see how it fares before going for it in the second and third stint. But maybe that's why I'm in the commentary box again, Jake.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes we see drivers thinking about how they construct their best lap. They sometimes just put a banker down early. Tahamali jumps up to second position then, still 3/10 behind of where is needed. Ohak moving up then to position number 10 with that lap. So definitely some good work being done over the course of those opening efforts. But you would have to say at the moment it's still in the wheelhouse of Tinko van der Velde. Now the question is, how will Maximilian Vedi look to respond with those times? And he does improve on time, but not on position. Found an extra 0.3 of a second over that lap. But most crucially of all, with that, as we look at Samir Foch, who looks like he's on a very good lap at the moment in the 9th position at this moment in time, riding in the number 8. We do see that drivers who gain time but not position, they still have a little bit to get there, and that's something we could be seeing almost halfway through qualifying.
Yeah, absolutely. But there is Tinko van der Velde then currently in provisional pole position by just under 3.5 tenths ahead of Taha Mali as he's making his way through once again back onto the power and approaching mineshaft now as you go up the gears then before this long left-hander. And as we were riding on board with Luke Whitehead, you can try and take it flat there if you dare before you then make your way on towards the Crocodiles and slowing the car down. A little bit of trail braking may be needed if you're really confident on the brakes and really confident that the brakes won't lock up. You can try it there, and then we make our way through in towards Cheetah, and then down the hill we go towards Ingwa, and Tinko van der Velde making his way around the final corner then. And is this going to be an improvement on his lap time? At the moment it looks slightly off the pace, however let's see what he does in the final sector. It's a 49.293, so it wasn't too far off his personal best. I say he was just close, but there is Taha Mali getting it down just under 0.07 of a second.
I'll tell you how close Tinko van der Velde came to improving his time. 6 thousandths of a second only. The Shecker moving up to P5 on a 50 flat. So that one worked quite nicely, and we are seeing those times come in. There is Lucas Ziega there for the Coach Anna Academy, trying to make a really, really good run at this stage through to the Crocodiles corner. And that Janetta in 9th position will be looking really strong if this is anything to go by right now. You're always turning left for this big right of Cheetah, and then the final corner will come in. Stones moving up then to P5 on the board. Just a tied time with Maximilian Vedi. So the AMG Mercedes both there together. But as the charge comes along from Ziega, it is not an improvement, down 1.5 on that time. So van der Velde and Mali then 2 clear, and clear by almost half a second on the championship leader.
Yeah, that's huge, isn't it? That is absolutely massive. And Tinko van der Velde, you can tell he's in the zone now. He's in his own little world and making sure that he gets every bit of car that he can, every bit of performance out of this Aston Martin that he can, as he makes his way through the Crocodiles. Back onto the power we go as we head towards Cheetah. Just look how much curb he uses on the left-hand side, just kissing the curb and kissing the grass as he made his way through there. In towards then Ingwer we go once again through the final corner, and here we go then accelerating towards the line. Over the grid slots we go. Is this going to be an even quicker time from Tinko van der Velde? Yes, it is. 49.020 from van der Velde. Puts himself now a very healthy 0.3 of a second from Taha Mali.
I tell you what, no one went that quick in practice. Van der Velde has just put together a fantastic lap. There is Soames right now in the middle of all of this, looking to gear up for another one here at this stage. 5 minutes, 12 seconds remaining, and Soames takes it off the road and decides, you know what, I'm going to pull it off to one side, take my fresh tyres and try and go out there again. Ashton Cox then for the Ashtoire Racing team down there in 19th position is 3.3 seconds adrift at the moment in terms of retrospective time. You can't miss his car, bright purple on the wheel rims. There's a certain Mac Backham I always used to remember had purple wheel rims. He was a very quick sim racer, so maybe trying to take a leaf out of, well, purple and pink rims, they do go fast.
They do go fast. That is the one thing you need as a driver is pink wheel rims. They absolutely buy you 0.2 of a second. Ashton Cox here now making his way through Mineshaft, and now onwards he will go towards Crocodiles, once again slowing that car down as he makes his way through the right-hander, back onto the power again. And you can see how narrow it gets on the exit of the corner and on the run towards Cheetah then. Flying through then, picking up a little bit of grass, and you can take a slight bit of grass there and get away with it, but it's not ideal in the 158 Ashtoire Racing car. Back through we go, through the final corner and towards the start-finish line. What's this lap time going to be for Ashton Cox? It is an improvement, 51.7, but it keeps him in 19th place at the moment.
Yep, 2.7 seconds off the lead-up and half a second behind this driver, Gershli Conchabo. Then here in the Gifted Racing team, Mercedes at this stage. My mind getting very, very mixed up. But at least at this moment, Conchabo certainly hoping for a really, really good run. A little wiggle there coming out of the clubhouse corner and heading towards the S's. And this is where you really need the balance of the car. We saw earlier on with the first lap from Luke Whitehead that he was really ragging and soaring at the steering wheel going through that section. That corner falls down the hill, that initial pass, and when you have to transfer the weight over through the S's, really, Kieran, would you say that that's probably one of the more difficult points on circuit to make sure you've got a balanced yet quick car?
You took the words right out of my mouth. It is absolutely the case. And for a driver, they've got to know the limit of adhesion, not only for the tyres, but what little aero these cars have compared to their GT3 counterparts. You've got to use it to its full effect through the S's. The only problem is when you do that, it can compromise the amount of straight line speed you will have down the straight. So it is a level of compromise you've got to have. It's the case of how much compromise are you willing to concede.
How much indeed. So there goes Conchabo. That's a great time, actually, jumping up to P13. It's lucky for some. Lucky for him, he just gained 6 places with that time. Now 1.6 behind in the qualifying efforts. There is Sheldon Muscat in 7th as we are now heading towards the 2-minute warning at the moment here in qualifying. Drivers will be able to finish any lap times that they start before the checkered flag comes out. The big key is going to be, firstly, can you get around and out to set a flying lap time? Only Conchabo right now is in the pits with 2 minutes to go. The other big key out there at this stage of time is, well, are you going to be balked at some point in the lap? Because every driver is searching for just a little bit of something here and there to make sure they've got the lap in the back pocket.
And the other thing as well is you've got to be careful with we're approaching now where drivers will want to be on their final flying lap, because once they cross the line now, this is it. This will be their flying lap and final lap as Sheldon Muscat improves and is 6th place at the moment. So this is the point where you really need to find your own bit of space out on track. If you've got a car slightly ahead of you, it may compromise your run all the way through that entire lap and you'll be kicking yourself afterwards. Make sure you've got the space, make sure you always leave the space in qualifying, and that will give you a good chance of actually setting and improving your lap time.
Yeah, we're looking at Simon Speth here, really down when it comes to qualifying here today. P16 was not where he was expecting to be lining up. We saw him as high as P5 last time we were here racing with you, ladies and gentlemen. So Simon Speth, definitely someone who needs to find a little bit of improvement. Jack Noller, by the way, only in 8th at the moment in qualifying. The Porsche's really struggling around this place today. It's very, very distinct that the balance of performance is not helping them here, and these Porsche Cayman 718s are now making that charge out of the final corner towards the line. Let's see what Speth can manage here in comparison to 16th. Will remain 16th, was slower by 600ths of a second. There is Saristo in the Alpine looking to charge to the line, and that's 5 more places gained.
Yeah, for now, he's still got one more lap to do as the Finnish driver in the OSS Racing Alpine, as he makes his way now down towards the first braking zone, then in towards turn 2. Final chance for the Alpine driver to get another lap time on the board. There is Luca Ziga, currently just inside of the top 10 in the Coach Anna Academy Ginetta. 50.5 is his current best so far. It puts him within 1.5 seconds of the provisional pole position time of a 49.020. Checkered flag comes out and Muscat is the first to it. 6th place he will stay. Jack Noller will stay 8th place at the very least.
Definitely will. Van der Velde couldn't improve, nor could Malley, nor could Whitehead. So all of them took the decision to go to the pits. Ziga out of the final corner then, and trying to make a charge to the line. Will need about 2 tenths here to improve on time, and it's a 55.56. Does not pay off. So now there is the zeros hit as they go through. The checkered flag, of course, we have noted is out, and no more improvements it is seeming at the moment. Muscat, of course, did go to 6th, but who's going to break the deadlock, if anybody, between Max Vady here and then Soames? So those two are going to be really working hard to try and make sure they get themselves through. Jordan Soames has crossed the line, has not been able to improve on his lap, but can Max Vady out there at the moment? He is really trying to push for it at this stage. We'll see what it is when he crosses the line. Is 0.8 he is behind at the moment, 8.5 tenths of a second. Makes that charge through the final corner over Ingwe, over towards the line. There will go a couple of little improvements late. Vela up there as well, and there goes Vady and remains in 4th place. Cox then is the final driver over the line. Session comes to an end, but Kieran, this is huge right now. When was the last time you saw Luke Whitehead 7 tenths of a second off in qualifying?
It's a huge deficit for Luke Whitehead. It is absolutely massive. And for Tinko van der Velde to come in and have that sort of pace, we know he has that sort of pace from the outset. And for him to be 7 tenths clear of Luke Whitehead, to be 3 tenths clear of Taha Mali, this is going to be a great showdown here. Luke Whitehead's got it all to do if he wants to keep a hold of his championship lead tonight. Van der Velde is out here and he means business.
He certainly does, and business, of course, means numbers, and the number he wants is 1, and 1 would give him the victory and massive points to claw back in a little bit closer in that championship picture that we continue to keep our eyes on. And Kieran, this is the point where you start looking at drivers and understanding what they need to do today in order to get their best results possible. Jack Noller is on full damage limitation mode after a poor qualifying. It's clear the Porsches don't like it here, and he's got to try and muster something out, like, for example, he's Fernando Alonso in a 2012 Ferrari.
It's going to be tough, but as you were saying, the Porsches clearly don't like it here. He was the best performing Porsche in the entire field, so maybe he's got the best out of that car it can possibly be. There's going to be circuits where that Porsche is going to struggle, and it looks like tonight Kyalami is going to be one of them. Remember, the drivers can only have that one car for the 5 races in the championship, so they have to stick with that car throughout. So it's basically a compromise. There will be some tracks where your car is not going to be as performing well as it should be, or as others will, but you've got to take that with a grain of salt, with a pinch of salt. And I think for Jack Noller, he'll have realised that. He might think that 8th place was the best he can do. We'll have to find out how he does in the race, because when it comes to race pace, maybe that's when the Porsche will come back alive.
Maybe it will, but we do not know at this moment in time whether it's a case of just the qualifying set isn't there, or maybe it's the whole race package. Very interesting as well over the qualified to see how well the Mercedes all performed. 4th, 5th and 6th for them at the moment. Conchavo in 13th. I think those Mercedes are going to be very, very quietly making themselves known in this one, Kieran.
I think they will. I think that you're absolutely right there. And the number 89 of Maximilian Vady then, and him between Jordan Soames, the 89 and the 23, that'll be a battle to watch, because they finished their qualifying session on exactly the same time. It was only because Vady set the time first before Soames that Vady gets the track position and that grid position there. So that'll be an interesting battle between the two of them. If they start to drop away from the top 3, expect a huge battle for P4.
A huge battle could be on the cards. There are the drivers lining up at Cheetah Corner. They get a very short run in terms of their pace and formation lap to get themselves up to speed. An entire hour on the books with us at World Pro Racing. If you haven't given us a chance already to, you can like, you can share, and you can subscribe for more amazing content brought to you by us, the team here. But the drivers now getting themselves ready. They, of course, are in control by Tinko van der Velde in the number 66 machine out there. They've got to be very careful about their speeding as they get the tyres warmed up, trying to work the brakes as well as they go in towards that Ingwer section, and they look to try and make that charge for that run. At what point do you go? At what point do you call the advantage and the opportunities that are there? 1 hour, round 3 of 5 here with the AMD GT4 series, and we are going to be just keeping ourselves going. It's a long hold as they get themselves underway. They had to wait for the green flag, which is, of course, at the start line, which is different to the finish line. Mally immediately trying to challenge here. Whitehead's trying to find a line. There's a lot of room on the run towards turn number 2 at Crowthorne, and Mally is going to sweep this one around the outside of van der Velde. That's a wonderful overtake to take the lead. It's nice and clean as they take the rise up the Jukske sweep then for the very first time, and as they make that move through, here comes Whitehead, like 1, like 2, and he gives him a bump to the outside. Van der Velde. Oh, and there goes Soames and Muscat.
Oh, they're off together, the two Mercedes, then off into the wall. How much damage would they have got? Soames looks like he came off the worst in that one. Macheka, though, who was right down the inside going in towards the first braking zone, managed to make his way through. He's currently 5th now in that BMW in the number 97. Watch out for him because he looks punchy today. But Taha Mali then. Oh, we got another one. We've got the Alpine then off in the background. That's Oscar Saris, though, who was facing the wrong way around.
Yeah, it certainly was, and that was huge amounts of trouble they're going through as we saw those drivers trying to get themselves through. There was Leaf as well going a little bit sideways. Look at the damage then for one Mr. Jordan Soames. As we can see, he's fighting around with Itamar Yatif. Tahamali, no such issues at the front. He leads this one, but look at the battle. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. It's exactly what Ashtois wanted to see. Themselves 1 and 2 at the moment. Jack Noller has only gained 1 place up into 7th. He's actually lost one to Jan-Nicholas Erbrich so far. We haven't really talked about him over the course of this one, but he's done really well. And there you got Jimmy Holm as well as they go through a bit of side-by-side there. It's like Ziga trying to get through on Noller. He's not going to get there at the moment, but Tahamali out clear. 1 lap is going to be scored in the books here at a very hectic start at Kyalami.
That's a lap to forget for Tinko van der Velde from leading this one down into 4th place. He's actually behind Maximilian Vedi now as they cross the line for the very first time. But for how much longer, I wonder, will that Aston Martin want to stick around? And look at the back of that number 89 Virtual Drivers Mercedes. He's looking for a move down in towards the first braking zone, but no gap really exists so far going in towards the 2nd turn, the first braking zone in towards Crowthorne, and then up the Yuxki sweep, and then in towards Barbecue. And that Mercedes is having to hold on by his fingernails then through there, as there is Lucas Ziga up into 8th place now in the Ginetta, and has got Jack Noller right up ahead of him. He's got pretty much Porsches everywhere he looks at the moment.
And not just that, he's got a GT Omega RPM Esports sandwich right now, and he is very much filling at this moment. Dean Vella making the charge then behind is up into 9th place after a hectic getaway here at Kyalami. And this is a track where you're starting to see how these drivers go through. Max Vedi there in the Mercedes trying to chase down that Audi in front of Luke Whitehead, the championship leader, in 2nd position. And now as they make that little look at Leibkoff trying to get down onto the inside, Van der Velde's trying to pick his poison at this moment, because the best time to strike is when a driver in front is trying to look to attack down the mine shaft. This is the most loaded point on the circuit. You have all of the kinetic energy in the car going through this moment, and then you try and think about where can you find a move. It's nicely covered on the inside there by Vedi there in the TX3 team. And TX3 virtual drivers, they used to be absolutely up there very, very highly. Some of the best drives they had in the world. Most of their drivers went to the Roman Grosjean esports team, R8G, but there's some side-by-side, there's a bit of contact as Alex Leaf finds himself in a bit of trouble. Through goes Jimmy Holm, and Holm's going to try and get 2 for 1 here, get by Ohak.
He will indeed, as Ohak was made contact there with the other Porsche, then going in towards Cheetah and going too wide through there at the best of times. Doesn't always work, as you can see there. Now we rejoin this battle for third place as Vady tries to go up the inside of Tinko van der Velde. He's actually trying to defend the position then as we head through the Yuxki sweep. Now in towards Barbecue then, and Tinko van der Velde around the outside seals the move. He's now up into third place. Brave stuff from the Sidebacks Motorworks driver, and it's paid off in dividends.
It certainly has, and that was a must-make move early on in this race. We talk about it with 5 minutes in to a 50-minute thrill, as we can see a lot of grass being kicked up behind Jimmy Holm, as he's got the inside of the Mercedes there of Gershli Conchabo, and he's trying to make sure he's got that one nicely wrapped up, and does so using all of the track available there at Sunset, going towards the clubhouse corner, and wide off there goes Muscat, really struggling with that, I'd say, aerodynamics of the car, with all of the damage on the front. And now you start to see, sorry, I will correct myself there, that is Soames who was going off there, so Soames in a bit of trouble then with the aerodynamics of the car. But same point applies. Issue on lap 1 is going to set back all the way to about half distance here, because they only have a 10-minute window for their stop, as Daniel Vella sees a car go off then alongside that as well, and that's Samir Foch making a way through.
Yes, and I think the number 23 of Soames has gone off once again and has now come back to the pit lane. So that could be the end of the day for Jordan Soames. What was a promising start, what was a promising points haul, might turn into nothing at all. Luke Whitehead then right in his rear view mirrors as Tinko van der Velde. This is the battle for second place. We know how quick Tinko van der Velde is. The lights are flashing away then as we head our way through the kink and then down towards Crowthorne, then just trying to play some mind games then is the Aston Martin driver in towards Crowthorne. Then Dean Vella meanwhile has got Sheldon Muscat behind him as we make our way in towards Crowthorne. Then will the Mercedes driver have a look up the inside? No, backs out of it. Dean Vella will hold on to 10th place for now.
Tell you what, Sheldon Muscat's bonnet needs some flex tape on it, because it is buffeting around as he gets up to high speed. There is Luke Whitehead, and there's a little look again to the inside. Trying to get in the mirrors here is Tinko van der Velde. Try and make sure that Aston Martin is probably one of the widest Aston Martins that you will ever find in a GT4 ever around Kyalami. He wants to make sure he's big. He's imposing here in terms of this race. And again, just getting into the mirrors once more, trying to see if Luke Whitehead will make any form of mistake. And that's the issue. Luke Whitehead has been in this game for a very long amount of time. He's got so much support around him, all sorts of help as he goes out there and races. And you know that Luke Whitehead will just be cool and calm and just keep everything nicely together. My job is to score as many points as possible. That means holding back car in third position, Tinko van der Velde.
Yeah, they make their way out of Mineshaft and then once again on towards the Crocodiles. Not really an overtaking place this one. It's very wide on the entry, but there is Luke Whitehead running deep. Then Tinko van der Velde will try and swoop his way through. He'll have to leave some space for Luke Whitehead to rejoin. And there you go then. Tinko van der Velde gets the position. A rare mistake from Luke Whitehead, but he missed his braking point going into the Crocodiles. Ran too deep, ran off the circuit, and Tinko van der Velde did not need a second invitation.
You go and big him up on how he doesn't make mistakes, and then literally a corner later he makes a mistake. That's just pure timing here, ladies and gentlemen. Dean Vella still in his fight right now. Oh, big slide off the exit then from Muscat. That will really hurt the run on this front stretch, and they can see your race leader, Taham Ali, out there clear by 3 seconds at the moment from Tinko van der Velde, who still has to deal with Whitehead behind in second, and then, in third, Maximilian Vady there in fourth position outright. Some great battles here. Vella still having to defend. He's got it all wrong over the anti-cut curb. That's a Juxgay sweep that you wish was going under the rug, because that is going to be 3 places almost now lost as Jimmy Holmes is missile in on another position.
Yeah, and now moves up into 12th place, and just like that, you see him drop to 13th place, and that is a huge one for Dean Vella to have to take that one. Just a slight moment there, and it's lost him 3 positions. That's how close that battle is going in towards just outside of the top 10 anyway. Everybody is going to be making sure to capitalise on your mistakes. The only thing you have to do is make sure you don't make a mistake, as there's one of the BMWs then of, I think that's Vela then, in the background trying to chase down Silver Pyramids then in the Aston Martin, and that is a heavily battered up front end of the Aston Martin as well. It looks like it's seen better days, and there is Jordan Soanes in the pit lane, so it looks like he's staying in this race, but there's going to be a lot of repair work done to that car.
Certainly will, and if he does get going again, he'll get a 10-second time penalty for avoidable collisions. So it will be dependent on whether he goes or not. If he does get himself out there, it's going to be ideal for him. He'll take the penalty. If not, he'll take it at the next round of the championship. Also worth noting that the 158 car of Ashton Cox, we're keeping an eye out on him right now in the Porsche. He's about to get a drive-through penalty, ladies and gentlemen. This is for a dangerous move with the number 9 machine of Oscar Saristo, which we saw on at the opening lap, which was down at the Sunset Bend, turn 5 on circuit. He's dealing with Samir Foch at the moment, and Foch, I think, is trying to angle up, try and get that one done as soon as possible. Mid-pack continues its scrap right now, but Foch is clearly eyeing up an overtake.
He is going through the kink we go, and then towards Crowthorne then. You can see the penalties now being applied by our stewards. Dean Vella then has got someone in his rear view mirrors. Ashton Cox did have Samir Foch in his rear view mirrors. Now he's got him right ahead of him, and the baby McLaren moves up now into 17th place. The Latvian then gets the move done. His next target will be Yativ up ahead in another Porsche.
Yep, another Porsche available, and it's effectively, up until Gershly Conchabo, a Porsche gauntlet here in the middle. 6 of 7 cars that Foch would have to overtake next are all going to be Porsches, and it's very much a case of now trying to keep calm and keep yourself in play. Foch still having to defend a little bit there from Cox, who will be getting his drive-through penalty applied post-haste, I'm pretty sure about it. But now it's about calm. I'll tell you what, it's not going to look very calm in a moment in the battle for the final spot on the podium, because Max Vady is looking pretty close here to the back of Luke Whitehead, that gap under half a second.
Yeah, and Luke Whitehead lost touch with Tinko van der Velde. In turn, Tinko van der Velde is starting to close in on that gap between himself and Taha Mali. He's just slowly chipping away at it, which is all he needs to do for now. We still have those mandatory pit stops coming up, that pit window opening in just under 14 minutes' time. Vady then, right now, onto the back of this Audi, then through in towards the final corner at Ingwer. And you can see just going slightly up the crest then, as you make your way back onto the power, into that slight slipstream then, as we make our way towards the kink and then towards Crowthorne. You can see it's not quite close enough to try and make a move, but as long as he stays in that Audi's rear view mirrors, we've already seen Luke Whitehead make one mistake. He'll be determined not to make it again. However, when you start trying hard, when you start trying to push the boundaries, maybe there is an element you could try too hard and make even more mistakes. As there is Lucas Ziga under pressure from Speth going in towards the first braking zone, and Speth couldn't quite make that move stick. He wanted to go down the inside. Ziga was having none of it.
Absolutely, and you're starting to see here drivers trying to work out where can they find a little bit of advantage. A little bit narrow there and squirrely from the Ginetta, a little bit wide and a bit expansive from the Porsche. So 2 very different contrasting lines, both a minor mistake as they try and unlock as much as they can out of their vehicles, and this is something that you've got to keep an eye out on. Into the pits as well has come Oscar Saristo, so I think that it's day done for the Alpine then at this moment in time, which is a real shame to see, as Luke Whitehead, you can see, continuing to have to play the defensive game. They've already dropped 2 seconds here to Tinko van der Velde. What's key as well is that the driver that van der Velde is trying to chase right now, Taha Mali, he's setting purples lap upon lap in the first sector.
Look at this, Vady hounding the back of that Audi as they fly through in towards Mineshaft. Meanwhile, Dean Vella then has got Gershly Conchabo right behind as they now make their way on the exit out of Layer Cup then. And that Mercedes has the inside line. He'll have the inside line going through this fast left-hander, so he should have the advantage in theory. They're going side by side, but the Mercedes just about gets through, then kicks up a bit of grass, has to then defend the inside line going in towards Crocodiles, but he's missed his braking point, then goes wide, so too does Dean Vella. And look at this then, Alex Leaf then will try and nip his way through, which he does. He's just bought himself 2 positions for the price of none.
For the price of none. Wow. I wish I could get that offer in the supermarkets. But Alex Leaf, wonderfully constructed. Conchabo has to get well out of the way through the mid part of the corner, and they're all going to start tripping over each other in the next couple of moments, because you've got Samir Foch trying to get past Itamar Yativ just behind that as well. Kinshabo almost being forced off the road there, going through that kink at turn 1. Got to leave enough room as they jam on the brakes into Crowthorne at turn 2. Behind that, Foch trying to look at an angle down to the inside, then in the baby. McLaren's going to have to rely on the entirety of the Juxke suite to make that a reality. Just about has to be given the room. Yativ couldn't shut the door on him, and just like that, that is some brilliant car control by Samir Foch.
I have to say, he's on a bit of a charge at the moment. Watch out, keen eye for him as we see the Mercedes of Kunsabo trying to flash the lights in intimidation. But you see, Yativ's not giving up on this position just yet then. This battle for 16th place is going to rage on as the cars now make their way now down in towards the clubhouse bend. And for sure, Yativ was not giving up on that one, but Samir Foch just getting that move done, keeping himself steady and moving into 16th place. Another a Mercedes is up the road, and then it's 4 Porsches after that. I wouldn't be surprised. Samir Foch is showing some good midfield pace at the moment. He can definitely get himself up the order if he keeps his mind at it.
And let's not forget as well, he's about 10 minutes away from the opening of the pit window, and he'll be keeping that in the back of the mind as much as he possibly can. Now, the group continues to start to go. A little bit of flashing of the lights, you can see as they make their charge down through the mineshaft section of road. But we've also got good battles up and down the order, keeping honest. For example, Mika Mershieka up in a career best P5 at the moment is Jan-Nicholas Erbrick, but we focus on Dean Vella for the time being, who is in that 14th position, still dealing here through these corners with Gurjali Kinshabo and the likes of Samir Foch behind. Leaf as well, running a little bit wide in the background. On top of that, every single position it starts to be really hard fought for. And speaking of hard fought for, look at Luke Whitehead here and how he's trying to defend against Maximilian Vady. That gap's opened up to the leaders to 6 seconds, and Vady is just finding out why Kyalami is a difficult place to go and get moves done.
Especially in the Mercedes as well. It's not an easy car to try and put a move down the inside, stick a front splitter up the inside as well as we head our way in towards the clubhouse bend. Back onto the power we go, fighting with the steering wheel as they exit now on towards the S's. And yeah, Luke Whitehead is having to work hard to keep a hold of that 3rd place. Another driver having to work hard is Dean Vella, because he's got the Hungarian of Gurjali Kunsabo right behind as well. He knows he can't make any mistakes, and the mistake he did make allowed Alex Leaf to bring himself up 2 positions without even having to break a sweat. Back with Luke Whitehead then, who you can see going in towards Leia Cup then seems to have the advantage. That Audi seems a little bit more agile through the corners, but in straight line speed the Mercedes just reels him back in.
That's the issue though. There are a couple of places you can get it done on straights, but it's not enough that it's giving everything that's needed. Through the corners it looks like Whitehead's just gathering enough of a margin that is doing exactly what is needed to at this point in time. So keep an eye out on this as they go through, and they'll be just about at that range where they'll be thinking about how they're trying to work the tyres in, how they are dealing with those tyres, because they're going to be very aggressive on those setups to use the tyres for about half the time that they want to on a traditional set. So that's going to be where they'll be trying to gain that little bit of momentum as they go through. It's worth keeping an eye on the track temperatures as well, because it did drop over from practice to qualifying by a degree.
Yes, that's absolutely right. And for the drivers as well, at the practice section it was 32 degrees Celsius. It's now dropped to 29 degrees just over 15 minutes into this race. And 3 degrees doesn't sound like a lot, but to these drivers it can mean the difference between hanging on to those tyres and having them just go slightly under temperature. These drivers will have set up those pressures for certain temperatures. If it drops too low, then those pressures mean all the difference. Kunsaba then looking for a move down the inside.
Oh, he's trying, and he's left the door wide open. Wiggles again on the exit. This might open up Samir Foch's attempt as he tries to box in Kunshabo on the inside of Sunset. Here goes the move. Samir Foch, thank you very much. Doesn't matter that you're not a Porsche. Gives him a tap as Kunshabo through the corner, then onto the exit and on the brakes into the clubhouse. Nothing doing there, so Kunshabo moves back into P16, and the race then very much alert does continue at this moment in time. So worth keeping an eye out then on this event in this race. We've had 3 retirements so far from this one. We've lost Jordan Soames, we've lost Oscar Saristo, and we've lost Ashton Cox as well. So 19 runners remaining here in this race. Of course, pre-medicated at the end by Daniel Vella in the BMW, but at least for the time being, it's this scrap going on for what is 14th place, where the focus is at this stage.
I have to say, well held from the McLaren then of Samir Foch. It's not easy when you get attacked from the car behind to keep that car in check, especially going through the long right-hander at Sunset, but he did really, really well. Simon Speth then has just been overtaken by Sheldon Muscat, who's on his charge back through the field, up the inside, going through Ingvar, but Speth is not done with this one. You can see Muscat defending the inside line. Well, it will be the inside line going in towards turn 2 at Crowthorne. Then you can see the Porsche on the outside of Speth trying now to find the outside line going in towards Crowthorne. Then as they run side by side, there you can see Muscat just about holds on, but that Porsche's just trying to find any bit of track. The Mercedes is just simply not on.
Any track will do, and if you can find a move, then that will be absolutely wonderfully constructed. Still, Foch is going to go around. Samir Foch then, and Dean Vella. We didn't get a good look at that then. Foch gathering it back up, loses the place against Conchavo. He's back now into 16th position. We will not be able to get a replay of that, but it looked at least like there was either A, a bit of contact, or B, he just caught the curb.
Yeah, and that hard work has been slightly undone. It's not all been undone. He's only lost a couple of positions, that's for sure. But in the grand scheme of things, he'll be kicking himself about that one. Whether it was there was, as you said, contact, or whether it was a mistake, we won't know for sure. He'll know for sure, and he'll be on the attack once again. There's a car off in the background. I think that was the 777 of Jimmy Holm in the Porsche, running slightly wide then on the exit of the S's there. We having a look at Lucas Ziga then, as Sheldon Muscat eyeing up his opportunity to go into 8th place, going through mineshaft now. This long left-hander then trying to hang on in there. The Ginetta will have no issue with that. How about now slobbing the car down in towards the Crocodiles? Sheldon Muscat sizing up his opportunity. He's already dealt with one Porsche. Now he's got a Ginetta ahead of them as we head our way in towards Cheetah once again. And how aggressive will you be? It might size up an opportunity to take a different line going in towards Ingvar. Let's see what they're like down the start-finish straight.
Let's see indeed. We also have to note that Tinko van der Velde on the lap before last just set the fastest lap of the race as well. There is van der Velde, and he's 2.2 seconds back of Taha Mali, and is really trying to keep him honest and trying to get into range to go out there and attack this race and do as much as he possibly can at this moment in time. So keep an eye on that. Ziga still holding off then from Muscat, making great strides on the recovery, especially when you consider he does have some very visible damage.
He does indeed, and that's going to cost him a lot. But at the moment, he's going to battle like there is none. And that's what we like to see. Battle like there is none. Keep your heart on your sleeve and just get the best performance out of the car you can, even though it might be slightly injured.
Exactly. If it's an injured car that you've got, there's nothing you can do. You've got to wait to the stop to see if any damage, if at all, can be recovered. And he's going to try and get as much as he can out of this. And that pit window, we have to note as well, it opens in 3 laps. You can see those 2 drivers in front looking pretty close. Jan-Nicolas Erbrich and now Jack Noller starting to get back into this one at this stage. Noller, of course, is the leading Porsche, Erbrich the leading McLaren, but down towards the mine shaft they come along once again, and it looks like Ziga here is going to have his mirrors full of AMG Mercedes, which is absolutely going to love this section of road, and that attacking option leaves the door wide open, of course, on the inside. Many ways can take that. Dean Vella, though, eyes still full of Conchavo.
Definitely, as he now makes his way through mineshaft and now on towards the Crocodiles. You can see taking the middle road, then going through, but Consabo wants to go the long way around, then going in towards the Crocodiles. He can't quite find the move there, but he definitely wanted to give that a go. Now the cars file their way in towards Cheetah and on towards Ingvar once again. It's clear the Hungarian means business. He wants that position there. Lucas Ziga then has that Mercedes of Sheldon Muscat right in his mirrors, then right in his slipstream, right on his diffuser, looking for a switchback there, and Sheldon Muscat doing everything he possibly can to just see what the Ginetta will do. Nothing doing there. Lucas Ziga, well held.
He tried the Schumacher special, it did not work for Sheldon Muscat. He was very aggressive trying to find that overtake, and he'll have another chance heading towards Sunset. We're hearing a 5-second time penalty is going to be added onto the number 54 machine. That is Dean Vella there for an avoidable collision with the number 8 of Samir Foch. So it's clear there was contact between those two, and just like that, it's going to be 5 seconds added on at the pit stop for Vela in this race. There is Gurjali Kunshabo, and I have to say, Vadi's done a really good job in 4th position to close down the gap back to Luke Whitehead. I've been keeping a close eye on that as we continue here with Kunshabo and co. And look at this, Kunshabo might just have a little look into the S's section. Big lunge down the inside. They're going to make contact, and that is going to be a skirting across then the gravel for Dean Vela, who's going to lose 2 places.
Yeah, a bit of door-to-door between them then. The S's are not really a place you can go too wide. If they can, they will try, but didn't quite work out this time. Lucas Ziga, meanwhile, still has Sheldon Muscat breathing down his neck then as they make their way in towards the Crocodiles once again. Sheldon Muscat going the long way around, hoping to try and get a better run going through in towards Cheetah. But again, the Ginetta holding firm, and it's allowing others to catch up. Meanwhile, Kansabo then goes down the inside in towards the Crocodiles. In fact, he's trying to defend now from Samir Foch, who fancies his chances of getting a move done. But the Hungarian holds firm for now, and you can see riding over there, getting slightly airborne going through Cheetah then. That won't be any concern to Kansabo as long as he stays ahead.
As long as he stays ahead, indeed. I do want to point out that Jack Noller now, he's within half a second now of Jan-Nicholas Erbrich in the battle for 6th and 7th, but they're about 30 seconds away from that pit stop window opening. There is Lucas Ziga in 8th place, dealing with his own 3-car scrap right now because they've allowed Simon Speth onto the back. Contact there for Muscat, and he lefts off to make sure he doesn't take the place, and just like that, through is going to go 1 and then 2 as well, because that's going to be Ohak following, and Hohak might try and get one done on Speth here into Sunset right now. They go through the right, still continuing to try and find that battle. Ohak's going to run a little bit wide. That's going to allow Muscat back through. Pit window is now open here in this battle, but there's the bit more contact. Ohak just grabbing the rear quarter panel.
Yeah, obviously not intentional whatsoever. That's the close quarters battle, but well held from Sheldon Muscat. Now back up into 10th place after that little bit of contact between himself and Lucas Ziga. Clumsy move from Muscat. He was just showing signs of desperation there. He's still got 34 minutes to go in this race. There is plenty of time, but we know Sheldon Muscat, he wants to get up the field. He wants to be within the highest positions he can. He knows he can get past Lucas Ziga. It's a matter of making it done on track.
5-second time penalty goes to the number 11 machine. That's Gurjali Kunshabo now, who will have to deal with that after his hit on the 54 of Dean Vela. So that is going to be another case. Now in comes Vadi, first taker into the pits. He was getting stuck behind Luke Whitehead, and that was something to keep in mind. There's that battle behind Mika Mersheka then between Erbrich and Noller. That's going to be a huge one between now and the end of this race. Erbrich, of course, in 5th. Noller is trying to get everything out of the Porsche he possibly can.
Yeah, Vadi trying an undercut here just to try and find a way, track position past Luke Whitehead. It's worth a go because fresh tyres around here, slightly lower temperatures, you can adjust the pressures when you come into the pit lane. Might be worth a shout if you can't get the move done on track. Pit window is definitely the time to try your hand, throw the dice and see what comes up. Itamar Yativ then currently now in 11th place, benefiting from all those drivers. It's a very, very busy pit lane down there.
It is. Speth, Muscat, Holm, Leaf, Kunshabo, Piermetz all came into the pits. Vadi then out and away, will be back in 13th position. Then on the road, we'll have Daniel Vela as the first focus, but Erbrich and Noller continuing on their race then as they go through the lefts and the rights. You'll see in green on the timing tower, that will indicate drivers who have made their stops. Those with the 1 next to their name in orange don't. Sheldon Muscat, though, nice pit stop actually, jumps up ahead of Leaf there with that get and go. So, sorry, no, that's Speth even. So, very nice stop then from Sheldon Muscat as he looks to try and continue on with his race. Struggling through the corner a little bit is Simon Speth, but still, it is all about focus now. And when do you make the call to make a stop? So the top 2 staying out. I wouldn't be surprised to see Whitehead come into the pits and cover off the move. Exactly that, has to cover off the attempt of an undercut by 1 lap, of course, by Maximilian Vadi.
Yeah, he has to. That's the only way he can, sort of keeping that battle between himself and Vady. He's got to do it. Let's see what happens out there. Mercheka, meanwhile, will go now up into 3rd place and will have the podium spots for at least one lap. Jan-Nicolas Erbrich then in 4th place. And there is Jack Noller, who, as you said, Jake, is getting every bit of performance out of that Porsche he possibly can. The next best performing Porsche is David Ohak, who's about 6 seconds down the road. So you can really tell Jack Noller is dragging that Porsche up the field.
Absolutely, and Erbrich would be a very big coup if he is to get that one done. There is Ohak then, the Slovakian, up the hill, and sees then in front Ziga just making a little bit of an through there, the Juxke sweep, and that is really going to open up the door here for Ohak to have an attack here for place.
He really is. He's got to be careful about those sorts of moves because it will encourage the likes of David Ohak to just see if he can get a front splitter up the inside. Anything he can to sort of put you off your line as they now make their way in towards the S's here through the, through the clubhouse bend. Then we're coming towards the S's. There is Vady then, and Luke Whitehead's rejoined ahead as he runs deep.
Very deep. That was a long stop then by Maximilian Vady, who would have been in a whole world of trouble. I'll just have a little look and see what sorts of times we're talking about here. So Vady then, who is at this moment in time in 13th position, had himself a 156 on his outlap, trying to get himself back through. Compare that to what is being done around him right now. See, it's 57s by those drivers behind, so he's doing okay, but that is just Whitehead saving the fuel, I think, in the opening part of that stint in front, which is even more impressive, and that's given him that leeway to go under fuel it again and try and fuel save it from now to the end. And once again, we're seeing it's close. 5 minutes remaining then on the pit window being closed, but all the way to that left-hand side of the circuit goes Jan-Nicolas Erbrich as Jack Noller is eyeing up that move.
He really wants that move, doesn't he? He really wants to drag that Porsche up even further up the field then in towards the second corner, then back onto the power we go, then up the Jutka sweep and then in towards barbecue as he's staying tight to the left-hand side there on the approach to the corner, making sure the might take a different line. You never know for Jan-Nicolas Erbrich. He might take a slightly different line that compromises his run. And your job as the driver behind is to just see what works and what doesn't. You're sizing up the car in front, seeing what lines they take, seeing what lines work as Jan-Nicolas Erbrich kicks up a bit of grass then and a bit of dust as he made his way through then up through the clubhouse bend, now on towards the S's, and Jack Noller will be getting tired of the sight of the 299, that's for sure. On the back panel, he'll want to try and find a move past, but at the moment, patience is going to be a virtue, I think, for Jack Noller.
Certainly will. I'm sure with how you can see sometimes lips of flames come out in the McLarens as in comes Dean Vella, takes his 5 seconds on top of that with his stop, and as such, he gets himself out and away again. I'm sure with the way that McLarens do like to send a lick of flame, he'll just get a marshmallow out of the window and go, come on, let's try and put a little bit of excitement in and give me a snack as I go on through. Mali, though, with control, 2.7 seconds. The gap was at the last sector. Crossing line, it's 2.5 now as they cross the line there or thereabouts. So the work still being put in right now by Van der Velde. And the crucial fact is they've got a bit of traffic in front. The very damaged Piermets. But in comes Merscheka. Following in behind is Jack Noller. So that's important then. Jack's trying to undercut then the McLaren.
It's such a tight pit lane entry as well, especially going around that almost, it's more 90 degrees than any other pit lane entrance I've ever seen, and with that wall so close on your right hand side, it really will punish any understeer whatsoever. Just take it nice and slowly through there, I would. There's your race leader though in Taha Mali, leading by 2.8 seconds, yet to make a stop in this race. So too as Tinko van der Velde, who's right behind. They've got one of the back markers ahead of them, just trying to see who it is as the it is, you're right, it's Piermets then who now gets out of the way, and you can see there's a heavily damaged Aston Martin limping his way in 19th place at the moment, but that would have cost Van der Velde a little bit of time. But remember, Taha Mali would have had to get past that same Aston Martin.
Shows you all you need to know about how Taha Mali is trying to manage this race. There is Whitehead in 6th position. He's got 4.8 seconds here to Max Vady. Now, the question is going to be, at this stage, is Whitehead's gap going to be the same as it was to Van der Velde and Mali, or is there going to be a closing in from Whitehead? Has he played a game in fuel, which is bringing him back to those drivers who are first and second at the moment. There is Mali. They have time to go around one more time, but Mali is going to try and block the undercut by diving in. Van der Velde decides, you know what, there's no point trying to overcut this one. I'm going to follow on into the lane on top of that. Welcome to a battle of pit crews. There is Jan-Nicolas Erbrich on his own in third position. You'd feel he'll have to come in because he's racing Jack Noller.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would just say that Luke Whitehead was lapping faster than the race leader over the past couple of laps. So definite time to be found there, as there is Jan-Nicolas Erbrich, who comes into the pit lane. Pretty much had to then, otherwise he would have missed the pit window and would have got a penalty slapped on him right away. So expect the likes of Ziga and Yativ to come into the pit lane to then serve their mandatory stops. Let's see how that handles for Luke Whitehead. Let's see how much this brings him back into it, because now he doesn't have Vadi right behind, and it's such a weight off your shoulders when you don't have to defend, when you don't have to think about the car behind. It is a sense of relief. It's almost like the chains have been released. Let's see what you can do.
Oh, this is going to be close. I think Van der Velde has actually just jumped in to stop Taha Mali. So this is going to be huge then as they try and get themselves going forward again. They are out of the pits already. There is Tinko Van der Velde. There's your race leader. And look at the gap he has got on the Ginetta. It's huge. It's 6 seconds.
It is indeed. So that's either him fuel saving in his first stint, or he's underfueled for his second one and will have to fuel save. But whatever the reason is, 6 seconds he's got now between himself and Taha Mali. Let's see how that manages on for the rest of this race. But that is huge for Van der Velde. He did get the pole position, and if we know Van der Velde's pace here, he's going to try and run away with this one now with clean air.
I have never seen a gap that big in this series so far. Tinko Van der Velde then, I think, either has made a mistake on the calculations or he has completely calculated it and is going to be running over the start-finish line with fairy dust and fumes in the back of that car. So the Aston Martin, with work to do, has got to not only try and, I would argue, fuel save, but keep and maintain that gap. This field has really opened up. And what's crucial as well is that Erbrich is still ahead of Jack Noller.
Yeah, and that's a huge one as well. And there is Jan-Nicolas Erbrich. Then Jack Noller will try around the outside. He will go going in towards the clubhouse bend, going now on towards the S's then. Still on the outside. Will he try and get the move done? He will, through the S's. That's a fantastic move from Jack Noller. And what a move it was. Great angles there. And the Porsche's up a position.
It is, and not only that, but look at the gap to Mika Mercieka just in front. It's under a second. There is definitely a carrot dangling on the stick right now. I think Vadi's a little bit too far away right now. We'll see with the gap as Mercieka will go through. It's 12 seconds, the margin between them. So Noller is saying, well, it's top 5 now, and that's as far as I can possibly go.
Yeah, but you can see Erbrich then wants that place back. He's not going to give it up. We'll see now how Jack Noller is defending against the McLaren behind as they now make their way in through Cheetah and now on towards Ingvar. Let's see how much pace that has unlocked for the Porsche of Jack Noller. Back onto the power we go, and now trying to chase down the BMW of Mikael Mercieka. He had a relatively quiet first stint, running pretty much all by himself. Now I think he's about to be joined by 3 cars in Noller, Erbrich and Muska, and possibly even Speth behind as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the big worry is not going to be Jack Noller, but more rather Sheldon Muscat. We saw how high he was up racing in qualifying, and he's been just quietly working away with the damage, and his pit stop would have done him a little bit of help there with that. They would have got some virtual flex tape on the car, or whatever type of brand of tape that you can get up on it. But really, this is all about focus then in the battle for 5th place. Mercieka has just got to keep a margin to Jack Noller. He knows that the BMW is a little bit better than the Porsche today.
Yeah, and for Muscat as well, there's the age-old saying in motorsport is that duct tape normally solves every single problem your car can have, and they probably stuck some virtual duct tape on that car and sent it back out. Let's see how that goes then for Sheldon Muscat as he tries to make his way back through the field. But there is Jack Noller, 6th place right now, 1.6 behind Mercieka, and closing as well.
And closing is the key. So we'll keep an eye on it then as the brakes then for Sheldon Muscat, really trying to get right up behind that very low and very sleek McLaren that makes a half error at the second part of Leemkov. Had to check it up slightly there. did one Mr. Muscat, and just like that, as they descend down the mine shaft and towards the crocodiles, it's another case where the McLaren is going to hold on to that position, but you can see just how aggressive Sheldon's being on the brakes. He is looking every which way for place upon place upon place, and he knows he's got 22 minutes to run the gauntlet and go through the entire train.
Yeah, it's not a long time when it all comes down to it. We'll have to see how Sheldon Muscat can handle this. Back onto the power he will go, and trying to find his way past Brick, then across the start-finish line. He's got a little bit of toe then as we make our way through the kick, and then on towards Crowthorne once again. Will he think about a move down the inside? I think that McLaren is just a little bit too far away from him to try the move, but under the brakes then, as you said, Sheldon Muscat is so confident when he hits the anchors.
Exactly, it's that confidence that you see time and again. That AMG Mercedes is very, very tough to slow down, but it is a pretty bulky machine. It's almost like you're trying to compress the car down, and because it's got a higher machine better than others, it means it's using more of the air to stop that car. That means it's better and can brake later than other machines, like, for example, that McLaren, which is a little bit more sleek and needs a little bit more help to get it slowed down.
What will help as well is Jack Noller, because if these two battle, it's costing them about 0.6 of a second on that last lap alone between themselves and Jack Noller for the both cars. Meanwhile, Mercieka faster than Jack Noller in that last lap by just about 1/10 of a second, so he's holding ground right now and holding on to that 5th place. If he can keep up that pace, this will be a great result for the BMW driver.
Absolutely agree, and it's all about keeping that pace and keeping calm, keeping steady. This race is not over by any stretch of the imagination for these drivers. It only takes one mistake in this sort of series to lose a whole bunch of positions. We've been seeing how aggressive the battling has been, and Jan-Nicolas Erbrick, once again, looking behind, has been very, very good this race today so far. Yes, he's in 7th position, but he is really trying to keep this one all nicely together in the 299 McLaren, and making that run to Ingwet, the final corner, and looking to unlock a little bit of a run out of this one to try and charge forward. Muscat's going to get a very good run here, but already you can see gap is a car length and a bit, so it's going to be another case of waiting, I think, for Sheldon, unless he finds the magic move, but he's not going to get there this lap. He's just got to stay patient and wait for an opportunity to arise.
Yeah, he's got to size up Jan-Nicolas Erbrick, really, hasn't he, for just a lap or so, see where the McLaren might struggle and see where his Mercedes is strong and where the possibility of a move could arise. Fastest lap of the race then set by our race leader in Tinko van der Velde, a 49.473. That is the fastest lap of the race so far, and Taha Mali responded by being just under 0.3 of a second slower than the fastest lap of this race so far. So don't rule out the battle for the top two then. They are pretty much on similar pace. At the moment though, Van der Velde's doing well to just increase that gap bit by bit.
There is Alex Leaf, and he's got mirrors full of Samir Foch out there at this moment in time, making the run through turn number 5. Then that is, of course, through the very, very tough Sunset corner into the clubhouse. They go along as they have chased after that Sunset for a very, very good long straight after the barbecue. But now through the S's section, you can see a little bit of tail happiness going through there from Samir Foch. Had to gather it back up again a little bit through the corner, and as such, doesn't quite have the run here to Leibkoff. But you have to argue he's done very well under the brakes here. Keeps himself nicely poised through against maybe a disadvantaged, you would say, Porsche. And now it's all about that charge again over to the Crocodiles, which has been a hunting ground for many a driver so far in this race.
It's been an attempted hunting ground, that is for sure, as they now slow the cars down. The TPC Sim Racing Porsche holding on to 13th place, rejoining this battle for 7th then, as Erbrick is doing everything in the book to keep that Mercedes of Sheldon Muscat right behind him. That's exactly where he wants him to be. But the more he focuses on the Mercedes behind, the less he gets to focus on Jack Noller ahead. And 1.5 seconds is a good gap that the Porsche's now opened up, considering the fact that it took Jack Noller a long, long time to actually find his way past Jan-Nicolas Erbrick. He will be hoping that these two battle even longer.
Yeah, and the more they battle, the more Jack Noller can focus and push forward. On the lap before last, Mercieka, Noller, and of course their Erbrick were all even as they went through, or sorry, all set their best laps. So they've got that in the back of the mind. Of course, Ulrich set another fastest lap of his race, a 50.7 that last go through. But look at Alex Leaf here and Samir Foch as they head into sunset. Foch is all over the back of Leaf, but TPC Sim Racing car is not going to go and make a mistake like that. He's keeping himself very nicely together. And I think Samir Foch is going to have to push the envelope out a little bit.
He's got yet another Porsche to pass, really, hasn't he, has Samir Foch? That's pretty much been the summary of his race. No matter what he passes, it's normally a Porsche that he'll have to pass as he now makes his way out of the S's and on towards Layer Cup. Once again, no way through. Track temperature dropping once again to 28 degrees Celsius. A slight wind blowing in on the northwest and westerly direction. At the moment, then that's going to help the drivers, or rather hinder them, going in towards the first braking zone of the track. A little bit of a tailwind is maybe the last thing they would have wanted, as Samir Foch here maybe looking for a possible move up the inside of the Crocodiles, and there Leaf leaves the door open and the McLaren will try and sail by. Can he find the move? No, he can't, as Alex Leaf perfectly positions the car then to make sure that he had the exit and the perfect run going in towards the likes of Cheetah and then in towards Ingvar.
Exactly, this has been some wonderful work being done here by Samir Foch on the outskirts of Johannesburg in South Africa. Now you've got to work out where this move is going to try and go through. Their fight for 13th position is on at this moment in time, and he's going to have that look now at the inside at Crowthorne. Turn number 2, he's been looking all day long for this one, and can he just shuttle it off on the exit? Answer to that one is not quite, because there's still that focus, room being given, almost a bit of argy-bargy, but the number 8 machine has now finally got his move done. But for how much longer? Because that Porsche really looked good off of the exit, and suddenly as they enter the national straight here, as they head towards turn number 5, you can see the karting circuit there in the midfield, or the infield I should say, around the outside. Well held Samir Foch to make sure that he mitigated absolutely all of it.
Yeah, and he didn't get a good exit out of Barbecue, and Alex Leaf did. And that sort of compounded to them going side by side as they made their way towards sunset. Fair play to both drivers. They're giving each other the respect they need and the respect they both deserve out on track. So fair play to them. But Samir Foch now up into 13th place. 3.4 seconds separates him and the homing missile of the 777 of Jimmy Holm as he runs deep, actually going in towards Layer Cup then, managing to get away with it for now. In theory, he should have the better exit and the better run, but now Alex Leaf will have all that lovely tow going through mineshaft.
Certainly will, but you've got not much room to use it because you're at full load, and by the time you've used that load and you've got that advantage from the slipstream, you're already braking into the next section of track. So that's going to be why you're not going to see that move from Alex Leaf then as they go through. Worth keeping an eye out on who actually lost out in the pit stops, and I think Lucas Ziga is the big loser. He's now down in 11th position.
Yeah, it's unfortunate as well. Sometimes the pit stops don't go in your favour. Sometimes the pit window, or you pit slightly too early, slightly too late. Whatever the reason was for Lucas Ziga, it really has not worked in his favour. He's down in 11th place. Bit of a race of his own at the moment. Considering he was up well into the top 10, that's going to be a huge blow to him.
Certainly is. You can see David Ohak has got through. Simon Speth as well has found a way through in this race as well. Ziga's got work to do. There's your race leader, by the way. That is Tinko van der Velde, and he has not relinquished any time to Taha Mali. In fact, he has extended it out to 7 seconds now here in this race, and my goodness, what a drive Tinko is having. He has mastered the strategy well. There'll be traffic, of course, behind for one driver, Taha Mali, to deal with, and that is going to be Daniel Vella, I'm pretty sure, in the BMW, is about to continue his stint of a lap down. Struggling a little bit at this moment in time, but, you know, this is not the easiest of series, and, you know, when you are at the back, you're just trying to make sure that you get the car home and dry, and I think that, for Daniel Vella, is the one key goal that he's looking at this point.
19th place in this series scores points, so that's going to be an important thing. Get that car home, get some points on the board. You never know what could happen in the season, and you can see that he's going to have to, he'll get the blue flags wave for the Ginetta. He actually pulls to the left-hand side and lets Taha Mali go through. Very nice of Daniel Vella then to let the second place driver through. Not much hassle there, and that's often difficult to do as well, making sure you pull out of the way of a driver who's faster than you, who's going to lap you, but making sure they don't lose the time either.
Exactly, and you've got to make sure that you are cleanly and efficiently lapping when it comes to slower vehicles. There is Jan-Nicolas Erbrick, and he's not thinking about lapping at all right now. He is thinking about how do I close back in on Jack Noller, one, and secondly, how do I shake off this Sheldon Muscat fellow?
It's difficult to shake off Sheldon Muscat. Once he finds you at the back of your car, it's very difficult for him to let go as he kicks up a load of dust then coming out of barbecue then. As we make our way once again in towards sunset. Yeah, I was going to say, the moment Sheldon Muscat latches onto the back of your car, there really is no shaking him. He's going to stay there for a long, long time. He's going to put you under that pressure. So far then, Jan-Nicolas Erbrick has handled it really well.
He has, and this is what Jan-Nicolas Erbrick has been doing season upon season. We've seen him here with World Pro Racing, really. He is very good at these, I would say, 6th to 10th place finishes, which you just look back on and go, oh, he's been finishing 6th to 10th all season. No wonder he's like 4th in the championship.
Yeah, and it's really going to reward consistency, this championship, and no doubt that is why Muscat finds himself well up the order, and more races to go, of course, for Sheldon Muscat. More races, more points to be on offer, but he would love to get past Jan-Nicolas Erbrick. He's been staring at the back of that car for quite some time now. We know Sheldon Muscat will try a move where some maybe fear to tread.
I would say so as well. But Sheldon's got to stay in range first and foremost. Now, there is Luke Whitehead at this moment in time. He's dropped now 12 seconds to Taha Mali, his teammate, there in second position. But I've been keeping an eye on the times. Just lost half a second on that last lap to Maximilian Vady. And that is screaming to me at this stage that Luke Whitehead, his times haven't been changing, but it's been Vady's that have. I think Vady's got margin in the tank to go out there and attack the final 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think he might have calculated that so that he had the fuel to attack in these last 10 minutes. And this is where drivers will be really looking at their fuel meter, how much they actually have to run to the end, as Luke Whitehead again kicks up a little bit of grass then on his way out of the sunset corner. Then there is Alex Leaf then in 14th place. Lost a little bit of ground to Samir Foch, but considering the start he had, he didn't have the greatest start in the world. He got caught up in a little bit of incidents. He's had a couple of door-to-door incidents. One, he came off much worse than any other driver. Still running in 14th place, still making his mark out here.
Still making his mark and still showing what he's got here, Alex Lee. 14th place isn't anything to shake a stick at, really. He's been hanging in there tough, I'd say, in terms of this one, and just trying to make sure that he is seeing the checkered flag come the end, and this will be effectively time trial mode for him for about the final 10 minutes of this race. You can see behind Conchabo and Vela just a little bit closer, 0.8 of a second between them out on track. But it's now a case of drivers also adjusting to these conditions, because we are seeing here in-sim time is just about knocking on towards 5 p.m. at this moment as Van der Velde makes his way through turn turn 2 now of Crowthorne. Once again goes on to what is his 28th lap of the race, and you'd argue at this stage that Van der Velde is really bringing back in that championship. He was 12 points behind going into this round on Luke Whitehead. He will now be, as things stand, only, I would believe, 4 points behind now Luke Whitehead. He'll gain he'll be 3 points behind Whitehead and then 5 behind Taha Mali, who at this stage would regain the championship lead heading to the 4th round at, I believe, Misano.
Yeah, and this is going to be a result that really spurs him on here. He's struggled to be on the podium in the AMD GT4 series so far. What a way to bring himself right back into championship contention with a win on the board. He's got 8.5 minutes to do that, though, and a healthy gap of 7.1 seconds. Maximilian Vady, once again, closing in to the back of Luke Whitehead. This time around, another half a second. So he is closing in at a rate of knots, lap after lap after lap. The question is, at that rate, he's going to need 4 laps, and the lap time is going to pretty much be close to expiring by the time he reaches Luke Whitehead at that pace.
He'll be there with 2 minutes to go, which will give him 2 laps or a lap and a half to find what he needs. So he's got to stay with it. There's going to be help from traffic in front. Now, look at Jan-Nicolas Erbrick. Suddenly, Sheldon Muscat is all over like a rash, but there's a lot more composure through the S's section from the McLaren going through. And now as they enter Leemkov corner, again, just nicely covered there on the inside through that double apex left, 10 and 11 out on circuit. The mineshaft corner comes up next, and You can see, welcome to Rule 101 of racing in darker conditions. Headlights are distracting.
They are distracting, and having your mirrors filled with them, with the flashing headlights, can put you off, but Jan-Niklas Erbrich there is in the zone. He's not going to let that get to him at the moment. Lukas Ziga, meanwhile, making a late move in towards the Crocodiles, up the inside of David Ohak. How on earth did he make that move? Lukas Ziga up into P10.
And look at those headlight flashes from Ohak. He is not happy about the way he went through. There was a bit of argy-bargy as they went through. The elbows got out from Lukas Ziga on a very, very wide section of circuit. So that for Ohak will be, right, let's get the head back down. Let's try and win back a top 10 in this race.
Yeah, and you can see then David Ohak will be trying to get on the money once again, heading down in towards Crowthorne. Then he's lost the position to Lukas Ziga, but he will not let that go, lying down. Right onto the back of him we go then as we make our way through the Yuxki sweep and up towards Barbecue. Kunsabo, meanwhile, has got Dean Vela right behind him then as they head their way now down in towards Crowthorne then, as Vela just holds his ground for now, and Kunsabo holding on to 15th place at this moment in time in the gifted racing team Mercedes as they make their way up through the Yuxki sweep and in towards Barbecue. But Vela's not going anywhere.
Not anywhere, and not just yet. They're both going to go incredibly wide, following their brake tracks. And Vela is lucky he's still got a car. He could have easily have speared into that pit wall there of the national circuit layout. And he's done very, very well to keep himself all composed and still in with a shot of a top 15 finish here at this point in time. Got to keep an eye out on the gaps. Got to say, gap at the front, 6.7, but it's 20 seconds back to third place, and that gap's come down to 1.8 seconds. But Kinshabo at this stage doing exactly what he wants to do in the fight for 15.
Yeah, well, there you can see Dean Vela getting onto the grass and taking a bump as well. That's not going to help the suspension. That's not going to help your momentum going in towards Layakot once again. Back onto the power we go. You can just see a glimpse of Alex Leaf. There he is then, making his way down the mine shaft. And Kunsaba, the Hungarian, holding on to 15th for now. He's got 5 minutes really to go in this race. And speaking of 5 minutes to go, this is a man who has to hold on to 7th place with Sheldon Muscat behind him for around 5 minutes as they make their way through the King and on towards Crowthorne. And once again, that Mercedes just doesn't look close enough to try and move down the inside. And that's been a frustrating summary of Sheldon Muscat's night.
Well, he's been very good on the brakes, but he's got to have an angle to get down the inside, and he's not been alerting to that. Takes that big, wide, sweeping line to the Juxgate sweep, trying to open up as much corner as he possibly can. He's just not finding it at this moment. This is all about pressure and trying to find a way through. And you're just seeing Jan-Niklas Erbrich seemingly unfazed at the moment by that Mercedes behind. McLaren feeling all shades of calm. And pretty much this will be a race of 4.5 minutes. Find a mistake. Well, there's the first one. He missed the apex at the clubhouse.
Yeah, and now look at this, Sheldon Muscat weaving left and right, just filling those mirrors then as we make our way through the S's right on that rear splitter through the second half. There it is then, that's the point of view, pretty much what the mirror will be showing Jan-Niklas Erbrich. That absolutely terrifying Mercedes of Sheldon Muscat looking for a move around the outside, going in towards Layakop. As Muscat will try a little bit of a switchback then to try and have the momentum going down the mine shaft. He'll have a bit of toe, but as Jake alluded to earlier, you can have the toe going down here, you can have the momentum, but there's not really many places you can put that momentum going down, as actually the McLaren seems to pull a little bit of a gap coming in towards the right-hander of the Crocodiles. And once again, Sheldon Muscat has to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, an aggressive over the curbs get through. Gap between Whitehead and Vady as well now is down to 1.2 seconds out there at the moment. So every gap starting to claw itself back in. This is a really important part of the race where drivers are trying to find all that they can. Muscat we're on board with from the driver's eye perspective. You can see it's hard over to the pit wall to try and cover off any line, and just that the McLaren is just able to pull away through acceleration. It's incredible to see how that McLaren looks very good in the higher ends. The Mercedes just has no way of arguing that one back.
Yeah, it just looks like the car's maybe geared towards top speed more than the McLaren, and it's costing him on the exit of these corners to actually build up the speed in the first place, and that's really helping Jan-Niklas Erbrich in keeping ahead of the GT Omega RPM Esports Mercedes of Sheldon Muscat as they once again make their way in towards sunset.
Another flick, the right-hand bend they go along once more. Another case to be made of finding that magical overtake. Another lap which will be ticked off, and one step closer to Sanctum goes Jan Nicholas Erbrich. Still on, of course, the battle third and fourth. I do want to keep an eye on that with the final 2.5 minutes to go if possible, because that gap is 1 second now between Whitehead and Vady. You can see it here, how Max Vady knows he has got to chase down the Audi, the only Audi in the field. And Luke Whitehead knows he's going to be looking behind in those mirrors for those final 2 minutes. He's made one mistake before in this race by running a little bit too wide. I wonder how much of that is going to be in the back of the mind with 2 laps to go here at Kyalami.
Yeah, Vady, though, he's been here before and hasn't found the way past Luke Whitehead all those minutes ago before the pit window opened. He's in that situation again, but it looks like this time Luke Whitehead might have an element of fuel saving about him going in towards the first braking zone of that, then in towards Crowthorne. And there you can see 0.8 of a second to compare lap times. Yes, another half a second taken out of that gap between Whitehead and Vady. So it's clear to see then Vady's got the pace. It's all well and good having the pace, but making a move on a car in front of you is clearly another.
Certainly is. Now you're starting to wonder, where's Vady going to get it sorted? He really is trying to close this one as they go through the right to the sunset bend. Not much sun here today in Johannesburg at Kyalami, but as they make that charge through, the next left-hander crops up along here as they go through the left at the clubhouse corner, and now the S's start to get themselves into view. It's the final sector where it's really opening up for that Mercedes.
It really is, and just looking at the sector times, yeah, it's about 0.3 of a second alone in the final sector where Vady's able to close in. So if that's where a move is going to be, that is where it will emerge in the third sector. Into Layer Cup we go then, and Luke Whitehead is going to have his mirrors filled of a bit of green, a streak of blue, a streak of lighter blue too, as they make their way down the mine shaft and onwards towards the Crocodiles, as Tinko van der Velde will come across the line to start what is now the final lap of this race. Crunch time for Vady.
Crunch time indeed. The battle for the podium. This is crucial for Whitehead's season. He doesn't want to hemorrhage any points. As things stands, Tahamali takes the lead in the championship. If he loses the place to Vady here, he will go down to third in the championship, losing it to Van der Velde. So that's going to be the key for Whitehead, trying to respond after what was a dominant display over, of course, at Alton Park. But now, as they make that run to Crowthorne, turn number 2, he'll be looking even more in the mirrors. The gap was down to half a second, but you've got to find the move now. And I am sure upon sure that Vady is going to be looking every which way and every way till Taco Tuesday to try and get himself a chance to make an overtake at this point in time. You can see the number 2 using all of the road and a bit more, kicking up the grass through Barbecue at turn 4, and now running with everything he's got here to turn number 5. We've seen some incredible sim racing going out here today. We've seen strategy come fully to the fold as now through towards that next section, a little bit wide through 5 at Sunset went Vady, but he is now searching and he's all over the back now, trying to search for a way past Whitehead. Final sector's his best, and look at this as they go through. They're practically nose to tail as they make this drive going by. Mali, of course, comfortably in second. Van der Velde will soon be making his charge to the line. Up at Leemkopf then, it's going to be even closer as they go through this time. And it's all about patience here for Vady. He's got one big chance to remain. There is Tinko van der Velde, though, who mastered the strategy game today to get himself to where he wanted to. Smiles all around. Aston Martin's first win of the season. Van der Velde rockets up the championship standings with that win. Tahamali will take second, but the battle is on for third still, and we can say that Whitehead has just got one braking zone to go to make sure he holds on to this podium place. Vady throwing everything he could at him. The kitchen sink came along as well, but Luke Whitehead, he's just about managed to get the Audi and 2 Ashtar cars on the podium. Every reason to flash the lights.
Yeah, Luke Whitehead just making it home in third then, and Vady gave it absolutely everything he had then, but Luke Whitehead just had the answer for it and takes that last podium position away. Take nothing away from his drive, though. He was sensational today. Macheka then will come across the line. Oh, there's contact between Muscat and Erbrick going round the final corner. Muscat gives Erbrick a little push in the right direction. A flash of the lights to say I'm sorry, but Erbrick then will come across the line to claim 7th place. Muscat will come across the line in 8th. I'm sure the stewards will just give Muscat a slap on the wrist for that one, considering he did give the position away again. David Ohak will come across the line in 11th place, and Jimmy Holm, a late charge from him, sees him in 12th place. Alex Leaf then has come under some late race pressure from Gurgly Kunsabo coming out of the final corner in this run to the line now for the battle for 14th place, and it's Leaf who claimed 14th place. The Hungarian and Kunsabo will finish in 15th place, with Dean Vella and Yativ will come across in 16th and 17th place respectively. But Tinko van der Velde then, first win of the season for him, and he will be thoroughly pleased with that one, considering the fact that from the start he went from pole to 4th in the first lap, able to use the strategy to pull 6 seconds clear out of the pit window. A fantastic strategy display from him, managed to pull the gap towards the end, and it looked comfortable ever since his pit stop.
Yeah, it really did, and that was a very strong race. He had a 2-second deficit going into the pits. He came out with a 6-second advantage, so 8 seconds on the lane. That is an incredible amount of work that was done there in the pit stop. And it's not just the fact that he has made that move and he's made things happen. We saw after the first round of the championship, it was a very middling drive which got him to where he needed to be. But it's about how he's responded to that as Tinko van der Velde. It's been an evolution that we've gone through. And surely, Kieran, you'd say that he's finally found full form. And when you've got 2 rounds left in the championship and you're only just now starting to find that good form, that is a warning shot to everyone else in this field.
Better late than never as well, for sure, to find the form in the first place. But for Tinko van der Velde, there's no better time to take your first race win than right now. We're past the halfway point in the series. We'll, of course, try and bring you the up-to-date points when we can. And Tinko van der Velde, yeah, from the pit stop at the very least, it looked comfortable for him. He looked comfortable. He got the fastest lap of the race as well. One of the only drivers, in fact, one of 2 drivers, into the 149s the entire race. It's safe to say he was very comfortable all the way to the checkered flag, at least from his pit stop.
We are going to bring in drivers for post-race interviews here. Luke Whitehead is the first to join with us, 3rd place overall. Luke, you come into this race as the championship leader, and it just looked today that there's no other way to describe it, that you were outclassed.
I mean, yeah. The good thing is today I have all of my race excuses lined up, and I have a number of them. So I haven't been on ACC. If you've read, the World WPR chat, no one else will know this, but I've not been on ACC since Monday because my PC has had severe issues. It hasn't been loading. It won't even boot up. So Tuesday it was failing, and I was trying to fix it on Wednesday, and only today we got it sent off to a technician, got it fixed. I got it fixed about 5 minutes, or got it back about 5 minutes before official practice started. So I was rusty, and I had no practice. So I'm really happy with the result. I think I couldn't have got anything more. I think, I've driven the Aston and the Ginetta and the Merc around here doing practice for this season, and I can tell you that they are very, very fast here. I knew it was going to be a tough. The Audi is, a lot heavier, or at least it feels a lot heavier, and it's a lot softer on the suspension for it to be fast. So, yeah, it was always going to be tough given the circumstances, and given the last few races have been a nightmare with, crashes and my own incidents as well. My confidence taking a bit of a knock, but yeah, all things considered, I'm very happy. I'm very, very happy.
All things considered, it was close for you going towards the end of that race. You were being hounded late by Maximilian Vady, and how important was it for you to keep that gap in the championship down to just 2 points to your teammate Tahamali as you head to Mazzano, I believe it is, in 2 weeks' time?
Yeah, well, it's extremely important. I mean, it was a great race with Maxi. It was really, really good. I enjoyed it. Me and him have had races in the past, and it's been really respectful, and I'm glad to have another one. But yeah, it was really important. I don't know if you saw at the start, I made a couple of late lunges to try and get as many positions as I could, because I kind of assumed that Tahoe would win. And I had to keep the points deficit down as much as possible. It was all about damage limitation and consolidating a good result. But yeah, the ideal outcome, I guess, today was, that happened, and I'm gutted for Taha because he was really fast at the first stint and had a big gap, and I'm thinking the pit stop he overshot a little bit, which lost him a lot of time. But equally, Tinko did an awesome drive. Well done to him. He was absolutely unstoppable today. So those two were in another league, and then obviously Maxi and myself were relatively similar. So yeah, really enjoyable race.
Well, before we let you go then, Luke, shout out sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank. It's a P3 here today. Keeps yourself second in the championship.
So first of all, I'd like to thank all my mum, my dad for working their socks off today, to get the PC taken apart and get it fixed and sorted at the technicians. I wouldn't have done this race. I wouldn't be able to race tonight without them. So, massively appreciative to them. Thank you very much as well to my manager, Robert Watherston. He's been doing a lot of work recently, trying to get me as many opportunities as is physically possible, and he's been doing an awesome job with that. And finally, thank you very much to H3 Racing. They've been massively supportive as always, and unlucky to Taha. He drove really well. Probably could have won the race if he'd had the pit stop go correct. But also well done to Tinko and Maxi as well for getting a good result as well for those guys. Well done to everyone.
No worries at all there. Luke Whitehead coming home with third position. Kieran, I believe you found the driver who finished second overall today, that being Taha Mali.
I have indeed. And Taha, can you hear us?
Yeah, perfect.
Taha, talk us through that race, because it looked like you got a great start, you held on to the lead, and then something happened at the pit stop where you lost 8 seconds. What happened in that pit window?
Honestly, I will start from the beginning. The car was a little bit tricky to drive, but I had a good start, so I had the outside line, so the Aston was really careful on the brakes for the first corner, so I warm up the brakes really well to be able to brake as late as possible, and my plan worked perfectly. From there, I was counting on my teammate to allow me to escape a little bit, to build a rhythm, and that's what I did. So I think 2 or 3 laps later, the Aston overtook my teammates, so I was trying to push and just don't do any mistakes. So I had like 1 or 2 big moments, but apart from that, the first stint was great because we had like similar amount of fuel basically. But for the second stint, I did 2 mistakes. The first one was that I braked too late for my pit box. So when I put I was trying to put the car a little bit to reverse to get back to my pit box, and the game moved me once again, but the engine was still on, so I couldn't shut down the engine. So overall, compared to my teammates, compared to the guy in second place who won the race, I lost 8 seconds. So when I crossed the start-finish line in the lap after I pit, I realized that it was 6 seconds. So it was horrible, knowing that I managed the gap really, really well, and I knew that I had like a little bit better tire wear at the end of the stint. But yeah, it's a bit tricky because the Ginetta is not working really well in all tracks. So I was trying to maximize the performance in this track, knowing that it's going well. But yeah, it didn't happen like I want. But congrats to the winner and to my teammates also. So it was tricky race, but I enjoyed it so much.
You enjoyed it so much, and you came away with second place, which is nothing to shake a stick at. It keeps you well into that title hunt going towards the back end of the season. Just sum up today. Are you happy with the performance today, considering everything that happened?
Honestly, no. Simply because I didn't put the practice that I needed to do to be able to develop the setup a little bit more, to be able to extract more performance from the car. So I really trained really a little, so it was not helping. And yeah, it was tricky, but overall it could like go the other way, so I could crash or something, or overall second place is really good. It keep us fighting for the I think the gap between first and fourth, it's really close. So I think the gap between first and fourth should be like less than 5 or 6 points. So it's really something. I mean, I didn't expect that it should be that complicated, but overall, I'm really happy, excited for the challenge.
Well, we are as well. And Taha, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. Congratulations on your second place. The floor is yours for any sponsors, any shout outs you'd like to make.
Yeah. First of all, my teammates, he was racing with me today, and for my team Ishri Racing, that supports me every time and help me with everything, my parents, and I just want to say happy birthday for my girlfriend. And really, I could nearly miss the race because it was her birthday, so she said, yeah, you know, everyone knows that it's a tricky day to race, to have like a sim racing race, and also like have something like important in your real life. So yeah, I'm really happy for all people that supports me. So yeah.
Well, congratulations on your second place, Taha. Enjoy it, and thank you very much for talking to us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Have a nice day. Thank you.
And I'll hand back to Jake, who is with now our race winner.
Yes, I've got Tinko van der Velde with me, and well, Tinko, we've been seeing how over the course of the racing that you've been just going from strength to strength, finding more groove with the Aston Martin. It seemed today was the culmination of all of that.
Yeah, this race was so fun, and this is one of my favorite tracks as well, so I know it well, and the Aston Martin is pretty quick around here, so that managed me to be on really good pace and take a win. I think the one lap pace was so good, and I think over the race pace it's a bit worse because of the tires, but it was really good.
So a lot to take away from this. Of course, your qualifying pace was sensational. You put the car on pole. But let's go back to the start of the race. It wasn't necessarily the easiest start in the world for you. Dropped back to third, had to work hard to gain places back again, and with a bit of fortune, you found yourself back in the lead. So how important was it for you to strike back early and quickly over the course of that race in terms of getting back into position?
Yeah, I was quite frustrated, of course, starting from pole to losing out so much. Luke dived for me a bit and pushed me off the track, so I dropped down to fourth. That was not optimal. But I managed to quickly get behind Luke again and overtake him in a few laps, and I only lost 3 seconds or something, so it wasn't that bad. And from then on, I just tried to stay consistent, tried to stay within the gap and wait for some mistakes, and that happened in the pits.
Well, you're rocketing up the championship now. We've got Mazzano coming up next time in 2 weeks. So in terms of your focus here, is this now a case of you're reaching levels where you're incredibly comfortable and you can go out now and put a real challenge on the title?
I hope so. The gap for the championship lead must be so close. I got a P3, P4 and now a P1. So I really hope I can fight for the championship.
Well, we certainly hope that you are fighting for that championship. Before we let you go then, Tinko, shout out sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank.
First of all, Pro Racing, of course. I really like the races here, and I want to thank you guys. And all the sponsors, of course, as well. And I really want to thank my team as well. They are the main reason why I got so quick. It's really nice to have a team, and I really enjoy it.
No worries at all. Tinko van der Velde, your winner here in the third round of the championship. 3 different winners in the first 3 rounds, Kieran. And Mazzano is another very different circuit out there, all about speed.
Possibility for 4 for 4 then? Maybe. We'll have to find out in 2 weeks' time, which I hope you'll be joining us along for. It's a close championship battle, as the drivers have said, between the top 4, and any one of them could win it. Only 2 rounds to go. I can't wait to... Can we do the race now at Mazzano? No, we'll have to wait 2 weeks, but I wish we could. You just have to wait until then. I'm looking forward to it.
I certainly am as well. You can only catch our action at the AMD GT4 series here with us at World Pro Racing, be it on YouTube, Facebook Live and on Twitch, as well as motorsport.tv, TVM Sports and ESTV, the esports television network. From everyone who's been working hard behind the scenes, the stewarding crew, of course, of Adrian Fagayo and George Muscat, FIA accredited, along with the Malta Motorsport Federation. Of course, Justin Mifsud has been on the cameras from Kieran McGinley, myself, Jake Sperry. It's been a pleasure bringing you all of the action. But it is Tinko van der Velde who has been working tirelessly to find improvements, to gain that pace, to gain that momentum forward. And now it's the championship that is the sole prize. A lot of drivers trying to take limitations away from this one. Mazzano could change the script once again. This is anybody's call with 2 rounds to go, and we will see you once again with World Pro Racing when sim racing becomes real.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You're risking not only your life, but also my life.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.